Hey, it's Sela Social Studies.
Hey guys, and welcome back to Sela Social Studies. So today we're going to be covering the New England Colony section of the 13 colonies. And the New England Colonies are the ones located in the northeastern part of the United States, or where the 13 colonies were. So in 1620, King James chartered the New England Colonies. The grouping of the New England Colonies were made up of 4 small but very impactful colonies that are located on the most northeastern part of America and geographically the closest colonies to Great Britain. So for class purposes, we will identify them as the colonies of Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. In 1620, the Pilgrims founded the Plymouth Colony. In 1623, Captain John Mason founded the New Hampshire Colony. In 1630, John Winthrop and roughly 700 Puritans would found the Massachusetts Bay Colony, later just called Massachusetts. This included the territory in what is now the state of Maine. In 1636, Thomas Hooker would go on and found the Connecticut Colony, and finally in 1638, Roger Williams and Hutchinson founded the Providence Plantations, which would later be called Rhode Island. After the first permanent English colony was settled in Jamestown in 1607, English colonists soon populated the entire eastern seaboard of the present-day United States. The colonists had their reasons to congregate near the coast, and they all had different reasons for sailing across the Atlantic. This led to several distinct colony regions. There are many people and events that are important to the New England colonies. This reading will not dive into every one of them. This is to teach you some of the basics of what occurred in the New England colonies and some important events that shaped many aspects of colony life today. The New England colonies were founded after Jamestown was settled in 1607. Remember that. It is after Jamestown, the first permanent English settlement. And in September of 1620, a small religious Puritan group called the Pilgrims, who were furious with the corruption of the Church of England, boarded their ships named the Mayflower and sailed from England to the New World. Later that same year in December, they landed in Plymouth, Massachusetts, and started the Plymouth Colony. The Plymouth Colony would later merge with the Massachusetts Bay Colony, simply known as the Massachusetts Colony. Pilgrims were separatists, meaning they wanted to separate from the Church of England. Their goal sailing to the New World was to escape the Church of England and the religious persecution and relocate to a place where they can practice their religion freely. Pilgrims are also credited with having the first Thanksgiving with the Native Americans. When the Pilgrims set forth to the New World, they were planning on landing in the New Virginia colony. Some historical theories say that they ran out of beer and they landed as soon as they could to retrieve water to drink. However, a more common theory is that strong storms and winds blew them off course and they landed in Plymouth, Massachusetts near Cape Cod. The new colonists were landing in uncharted territories. They felt there needed to be laws because the Pilgrims felt that life without laws would be very dangerous when trying to establish a colony. Pilgrim leaders gathered in the Mayflower and created the Mayflower Compact, which was a set of laws that ensured law and social structure would prevail in the end. The Compact is historically important because it was the first document to establish a self-government in the New World. Self-government is an idea that would later result in the Revolutionary War. The compact remained the law until 1691, and the Plymouth Colony and the Massachusetts colonies merged. A second group of colonists took the daring trip to the New World 10 years later, and in 1630, a much larger group of Puritans followed the path of the Pilgrims and landed in Massachusetts. The Puritans wanted to stay with and purify the Church of England. The easiest way to remember the difference between the Pilgrims and the Puritans is easy. The Puritans wanted to purify the church, not leave it. The Puritans are well known for founding the Massachusetts Bay Colony, which would later merge again with Plymouth. They are also well known for the Salem witch trials. Between 1692 and 1693, more than 200 people were put on trial for practicing witchcraft, and 20 of them were actually executed. John Winthrop was an English Puritan lawyer who was one of the leading figures in the founding of the Massachusetts Bay Colony. Both the Pilgrims and the Puritans immigrated to the New World for the same reason: to practice religion freely. All right, now we're going to get into math. Not deep into math, but a kind of social studies type math. And what we call it is the geography plus climate equals economy. So when the economies of the colonies are discussed, it is an imperative that the geography and climate are discussed first. It's the combination of the geography and the climate which dictates the economy. The same thing today. The economy today is very similar to the economy of the past. In the New England colonies, the climate consisted of long, harsh winters that would encompass many months of freezing weather and many winter storms, accompanied by a short, mild summer where their growing season would be shortened. This rough climate did not serve well for farming. Due to the poor weather in the New England colonies, there were only small farms that families had. The geography did not help the situation either. The New England colonies were mountainous with a thin, rocky soil where important minerals for plant life was non-existent. If you go to the north and dig out a shovel full of dirt, it will most likely be light brown soil that is full of rocks. I remember playing baseball up in New York, and the baseball fields were thin, rocky soil. There were some northern forests and an abundance of deep sea ports that would be used for merchant boats to enter and leave the colonies. The poor climate and rocky terrain meant that there were only small subsistence farms and no large crop plantations. Remember that. Again, a way to remember the size of the farms in New England colonies, just using the simple saying, small colonies, small farms. So what does that mean for the economy? Well, the economy of New England colonies was very dependent on things like fishing, whaling, merchant trading, lumbering, and small household farmings. Trading from New England colonies was so abundant that in 1651, the Lord Protector of England, Oliver Cromwell, passed 3 navigation acts that controlled English international trade with the colonies. The act states that trade must only be carried out by English ships, all goods imported into the colonies had to pass through ports of England, and specific goods such as tobacco could be exported only to England. On a side note, when Cromwell led England, it was one of the few times that England was not led by a monarchy, and Cromwell used his new model army to overthrow King Charles I and assume power. He invaded Ireland and slaughtered thousands, but after Cromwell's death and the monarchy took back power, he was dug up, hung in chains, beheaded, and his head was placed on a spike for everybody to see. Pretty neat, huh? All right, so what about the interactions with Native Americans? When the Spanish, French, and Dutch colonizers came to the New World, they would sometimes marry Native Americans. The English very rarely did that because they did not want to integrate into their society and were unwilling to accept Native Americans into the English society. The English wanted to continue moving west and would encroach on native land, resulting in many armed conflicts like King Philip's War in 1675, otherwise known as Metacom's War. King Philip, or Metacom, was a Wampanoag chief, and 3 of his warriors were accused of killing an advisor to Philip who converted to Puritanism, and they were ultimately executed, starting a 14-month bloodbath. So the New England colonies had lots of trials and tribulations. I want you to make sure to remember that colonial math. It's that colonial math that really put us where we are today. We said that the economy of the North was foresting, it was trading, and deep ports, and things like that. And that's still the way it is today. Next up, middle colonies.